Hi there. Welcome to VERIFYiQ team member training. We're going to cover all of the basics that you need to know in order to work effectively within VERIFYiQ. You will notice our software is super easy to use, super intuitive. That said, we want to help you along the way to make sure you are as effective as possible. So I'm going to cover tips, tricks, best practices throughout this video. And if you ever have any questions, in-app support is there to help you. That being said, let's jump into the software and show you how to get started. This is the client dashboard. This is where you can see all of your clients, the status of the reviews, who is assigned to both the bookkeeping and the review work, and the health score if you are on our enterprise plan. Now, a couple tips to know here. All of these filters will change the URL. So if you want a view of just maybe reviews that are currently in review, you'll notice it will tell you if you bookmark this URL, it will save this view for you. So maybe I only want in review with Angela. I can save this URL and always come back to this review easily. This view very quickly. If I want 50 clients to be shown, maybe I want to sort it based on end date. You can adjust all of these things and get to a saved view. If you ever want to just get to the default view, this VERIFYiQ logo right up here will take you to that view. Just click on it. It will take you out to the view. If you have a long list and you don't want to just keep scrolling through, simply go into this box, type Acme or whatever the client is. You can pull up the reviews that you want to get to. So don't spend a lot of time scrolling and trying to find what you need. Leverage these filters to help you get directly to the information you want to get to. Now, before we jump into a review, I want to show you the gear icon. Now, depending on your level of permissions will depend on what you see in here, but there's a few things to take note of. Notification preferences. You can set up when you want to receive an email notification based on all of these different settings. Spend some time in here to really dial in the notifications so you're not getting a lot of noise when in your inbox that you don't want, but you do want to get certain notifications and you want to pay close attention to those. So adjust your notification settings to ensure that you are getting the notifications that you want to get to. Additionally, multi-factor authentication, we highly encourage that you activate that on your account to ensure the security and the privacy of the information in here. If you ever need to change your password, you can do it from here as well. So that's your personal preferences and settings. If you have permissions to add a client, I'll show you this very briefly. You can fill out the client name. Client code is an optional field. If you're trying to match it to a practice management system or something, you can put a client code in there. Service frequency, monthly, quarterly, or yearly. Due date, this is when the work should be completed by internally. You can assign the bookkeepers and the managers or reviewers here. If it's pre-populated, it's because these users are actually set to have access to all users as reviewers, which is why it's going to pre-populate them in this list. Time zone is interesting because, as you know, if you're pulling reports based on a month beginning and a month end, it depends on where in the world you are as to what timing it's going to pull that information. So you want to make sure this time zone is relevant to where the client is located so that even if somebody on the other side of the world is doing the work, they're going to use that client's time zone for pulling the information. The ability to enable solo review if that's enabled within your firm preferences, and schedule reviews if that is also enabled in your firm preferences. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail there. That's more of an admin training, but wanted to share those settings and configuration with you. From this dashboard screen, this 3 dots also provides a few options. If you need to connect your QuickBooks or Xero account because you haven't done it before, I can show you here, Connect GL. If you click this, it will take you to this screen, walk you through that third-party connection for QuickBooks or Xero. One thing to keep in mind with QuickBooks, it will send a notification to the primary admin of the QuickBooks file. So if your client is the primary admin, you might want to give them a heads up that VERIFYiQ is going to get connected to their account, and that's a tool that is helping you to provide services for them. In addition to the 3 dots, you can also edit the settings. I just showed you the various settings here, and you can look at the review history. So if you want to go back and look at prior period reviews, you can do that from here. You can see the full history. If If we go back here to our reviews, our dashboard screen. Oh, that actually went to review. If we go back out here to our dashboard, we can also delete clients from in the settings. Now, you're going to notice here, Acme and Company actually already has a review initiated. I'm going to click into that review, and what we are going to do is we're going to cancel that review because I want to show you creating a review from scratch. So I'm going to cancel that review. When we come out here, you will see it's outdated because the last time we had a review was in October. And I'm just going to click on Acme and Company here, and it's going to take me to the review configuration. One thing to note, if you ever have a situation where the review is not working, sometimes that is a result of the authentication token between us and QuickBooks or Xero has gone bad, has maybe failed or expired. If you click this disconnect button, you can just reconnect to those tools and everything should start working for you. Now, I'm going to do a multi-month review here because I want to make sure we have a whole bunch of data here. We can select the bookkeeper. It's going to be me. The reviewer is Luca. We'll start the file review and the review is going to run. It is currently connecting to the GL. It is reviewing every single transaction and every single balance in that period I selected and checking it against about 30 or so different rules that we have set to test those transactions for accuracy. It's going to flag potential issues or things that you need to pay attention to, either address them as, yes, I'm aware this is not an issue, resolve them within QuickBooks or Xero, or potentially ask some questions. You can comment about them. Now that we're here, you can see in this review, it's showing about 17% of the transactions appear to be correct. 8% have a little bit of a concern for it, and 75% are errors. So there's a lot of issues in here that we need to jump into. If we look across the tabs, these are the different rules that have been performed, and you can actually hover over each of these tabs and see how many things require attention or are incorrect. Now, this dashboard tab is an informational tab that shows you transaction volume as well as bank and credit card statuses. So you can see the bank and credit cards here, the number of transactions that happen, the date of last reconciled transaction. Now, I just want to note this is not necessarily attached to the actual performance of a reconciliation in these tools. This is just giving you the date of the last transaction that was reconciled in these accounts. And you'll notice this account here has a flag on it. And if I click on it, it gives me an explanation as to why it has been flagged. You can tell the date is very old from the period that we selected. And I have the ability to change the status of that. I can say, yes, I'm aware, I can make it correct, or I could just leave a note in here, maybe for the reviewer, client has not been responsive to requests for statements. So you could leave a note like this in here and you could drop that comment. You may want to override it and change it to correct because you are aware of the issue. Maybe it's requested statements from client. And now you're going to override that. So you'll notice it now has a check mark. There's a red underline to let you and a reviewer know what the original status was. And then you can click on it and you can see the notes here. Now, I'm logged in as Luca. I realize I selected Byron as the bookkeeper in this case. I logged in as Luca. That's okay. It's just going to stamp who the user is that's authenticated, provide a date. If you are this user, you can edit it. Others can come in and provide additional comments. But that's a way you can see that. And if I hover over dashboard now, you can see that there's 2 comments in here and there's 1 override. Now, in addition to the bank and credit card information, we have some additional summary activity around invoices, deposits, payments, bills, journal entries, and you can see the volume of transactions based on the period that I selected. And I'm going to show you actually, here's where it shows you the period. You can actually change this if you want to. You just need to realize that it's going to reset whatever work you've done in here because you're selecting a new period. So we're not going to change that. You can also change the assignees if you need to change that as well. I'm going to scroll back down here, show you there's also a rule that will highlight new items that were created during that period. So maybe new accounts, new vendors, new customers, new projects, a wide variety of things. And there's actually the ability to edit what gets flagged. I'll show you that a little bit later in here, but there's some accounts in here that, or some vendors that got created. We're good with them. I'm actually going to select this box, and you'll notice it multi-selects all of these accounts here. And if I click this arrow here, I can change all of them correct. So reviewed and approved. I'm going to go ahead and do that, save and override. It's going to apply that same explanation to all of those transactions here. And in addition, it will show you financial information. So some high-level financial information just for scoping purposes. So let's keep moving on. The next tab is the reconciliation tab, and you're going to see this is the bulk of our issues, which is not a surprise because of this account that has been unreconciled for a long period of time. So if I click on here, this is going to show us a list of unreconciled transactions from before the end of the period of review. So any unreconciled transactions. Now, there's so many in here because of that unreconciled bank account. If you were fully reconciled, you're only going to have a few, if any, transactions in here, and you could make adjustments. You'll also notice this view transaction. If I click this, this is a hyperlink that will take me directly to QuickBooks or Xero, where I can edit the transaction accordingly. If I do that and I make changes to that transaction, this rescan button will update the review to reflect those changes. Now, in this case, I'm going to do a big bulk override because I want to just go ahead and approve these. I'm going to choose change to correct. It's asking me to provide that explanation. One thing you'll notice is this apply the same explanation to all overrides. If you wanted to just cycle through, in fact, I'm going to uncheck this, and you'll see it shows me the transaction that I am currently overriding, and I'll just say note. And what it will do, it just changed, went to the next transaction, note 2, and it will just keep going through each transaction one by one. If you just want to go ahead and apply to all of the transactions, I'm just going to provide a note override. I recommend you provide good explanation for why you were overriding a transaction. Hit save and override. That's going to go through that full list of 323 transactions and override them. Now you can see 90% correct, 8% still warning, and 2% errors, and they have all been overridden. If I click on these first couple, you'll see there's note 2, here's note 3. So you have some ability to adjust the way in which you are overriding those transactions. Now, large purchases, this is actually looking for transactions over a certain value that you can set. There's a firm default, and then you can set your own defaults based on the client. Currently, there are no transactions in here, and I'm going to show you in the test rules right here on the right where you can adjust those rules. So when you go in here, this is now Acme & Company's test rules. So these are custom to only Acme & Company. You can see there's the ability, you can turn a rule off entirely. You can turn on and off what new items are getting flagged. Here's where you can set date thresholds, or even I could exempt BB&T, for example, from this rule. Here's that large purchases threshold. So not only can I adjust the amounts, you can see I've also excluded certain accounts. Now it'll default to the most common accounts that should be excluded, but you can add to this list. For example, I've added subcontractor because that shouldn't show up. So you'll see this for all of the rest of the tests, and we haven't gone through them yet, but you can see you can adjust them. You can also enable and disable. Now I have AR and AP disabled on this customer because we don't use, or this client, we don't use AR and AP with this client. So I've disabled those tabs altogether so they don't show up. I'm just going to hit save test rules. You can either do a rescan right now, because if you've made changes to those rules, you need to reapply those changes to the transactions and balances, or you could do it later. I'm going to choose later because I don't want to run through a full rescan. But as you'll notice, there's no AP and AR tabs here because, like I said, this client doesn't use AP and AR. So the inconsistency check, this is actually my favorite check. This check does 3 things. It looks for missing vendors. It looks for vendors that have not been used in the prior 12 months. So like stale vendors that maybe shouldn't have been selected or were selected by accident, or they're just brand new, which is okay. Or transactions that were previously coded to one category and now they're being coded to something different. So in this case, this looks like potentially a miscoded transaction. If I click on the flag, it will give me an explanation as to why it's been flagged. And if I want to change it, I can hit this hyperlink to go to that transaction and change it. Again, I can override these transactions looking at this one. I'll click on the flag. This is a new vendor. Actually, that was also caught in the earlier test. So we're going to go ahead and override that, provide a note as to why. Yeah, you might notice I actually just hit Control Enter right there, which actually also saved that information. And you can go through and do this for all of the inconsistent categorizations that have occurred. The income statement is looking for unusual balances. So this would be negative revenue, negative expenses. If you have clearing accounts that should have a zero balance, it will flag those. This insurance expense, you're probably wondering why that has been flagged. If I click on this, this is a balance in a parent account. So for those of you who use QuickBooks know, sometimes we have sub accounts and we want the balances to be in the sub accounts, not the parent account. If that is a preference, you can adjust that in those test rules settings. We're going to say, yep, we are aware of this, and we'll go ahead and save that override. Maybe that's a change we need to make. Balance sheet, same deal. Negative assets, negative liabilities. If you have like depreciation, accumulated depreciation with a positive balance, it'll flag that. Just looking for unexpected categorization. The AR and the AP are basically aging reports. You can set the date thresholds for what you want to pull up from a due date review. And then in the income statement and the balance sheet comparison, what this is doing is a month over month review of trends. So you can see by clicking on the flag, this balance has changed more than 3% from the previous month. So that 3% is a setting in the test rules that it is looking for in a difference. If I click on the red one, 6%. So this is a really easy way to look for potential issues or weird things. Here's that insurance expense, in fact, that may be an issue. So all of these things can be reviewed right here, quick and easy. And it's reviewing multiple months because I did a multi-month review. If you only did November, for example, it would only be flagging transactions in November, but it would show you multiple months so you can kind of see what that trend has been. So a lot to look at here in the income statement and balance sheet comparison. I just want to go back to the test rules again to show you some of the settings here. Oh, one thing to note, you can always reset this to firm defaults if maybe there's just been so many changes, you just want a fresh, clean start of rules. But if we scroll through here, back, oh, I clicked accidentally. Let me go back to the test rules here and scroll back down. So inconsistency, you can exempt, like I exempted Amazon because that's going to come up all the time. Here's that parent account flag for the income statement. You can set negative balance or zero balance accounts. Same with the balance sheet, AR and AP, there's those date thresholds. And here's your income statement comparison. So you can set a dollar amount threshold where if it's under this, don't flag it. So if you had a balance of $3 one month and now it's $6, that is a full 100% difference that would be flagged, but we really don't care about $3. So you can set a dollar threshold there and then percentages for what the flag, and you can also exclude certain accounts. And then here's where you can choose your comparative periods. And if you don't want to use this month-end close or client health score, you can disable that tab. I'm going to show you that right now. So we're going to cancel out of here, come back to the top here. This month-end close serves two purposes. If you have certain checklist items that you want to perform as part of the quality review, you can add those here and they will show up month over month. Once you've completed them, you can just change the status, provide a quick explanation. You can do a batch if you've changed them all. Whatever, you can use hyperlinks. This isn't meant to necessarily be a full checklist for your bookkeeping, but it is intended for quality control related checklist items. Now, if you have an enterprise plan and your firm has enabled client health score, this is a survey to be performed with every review to gauge an internal sense of what the relationship looks like with your clients. So this is your perspective. So in this case, are we going to deliver our financials? And I would say it's going to be draft because we have an outstanding bank that we can't reconcile. How happy are you with this client? These are default rules or questions. They could be changed by your firm to whatever they want and find is valuable. I'm going to say, they're not my favorite. I guess they're fine. How do they like us? They tend to complain. When's the last time I interacted with them? It's been a year. And then I could provide some additional notes. So this way, the reviewer, your manager, maybe the firm owner has an idea of how things are going with this client relationship. And if they need to maybe reach out to the client to figure out, hey, is something going on here? This is your opportunity to voice those concerns. So really powerful tool here with the client health score. And as you may remember, this calculates into a score that is shown in the review history as well as on the dashboard. So once you've completed all of these tasks, we still have a couple things that are outstanding. If I click on this 2%, it's some of the balance sheet comparison and income statement comparison items. In fact, if I go to here, I could actually multi-select. I'm just going to override all of these to get our score up here. Reviewed and okay. So this way, everybody knows I've done my work. And now we're up to 93%. So I think I'm good to go. I'm going to submit this to the reviewer. If I hit submit to reviewer, that is going to send this review to the reviewer who is assigned. They're going to get that email notification. And then you can see that health score is pretty low because of how we answered it. And you can see it's flagged again because we answered that one question as like, I can't believe they haven't fired us yet. So from a reviewer's perspective, they can click on here. They can come through, see the same view that we were looking at, see the notes, provide some additional comments. And they have two options. They can either send it back to the bookkeeper for them to fix anything that needs to be addressed, or they can complete the review and move on to the next period. So straightforward process, very simple workflow, allows you to focus your eyeballs on the important things rather than clicking through QuickBooks or Xero trying to find potential errors or issues. You can also get to the review history from here. Again, the test rules are right here. I'm going to go back out to the dashboard by clicking on VERIFYiQ here, and you can just see everything you need to see. You can go through the list, resolve things, filter by the status you need. And that's pretty much it. The one thing I want to stress as I wrap up this training, the customization of the test rules is one of the most important things that I encourage everybody to do. There's going to be a set of firm defaults that are going to apply to every single client. But as you know, every single client is a little bit unique and a little bit different, which can result in a lot of false positives. So what you want to do is really spend some time to dial in these test rules for each client to reduce the amount of false positives and really only focus your eyeballs on the things that are important. So spend some time, get familiar with the ability to customize this. And in your first couple reviews, as you're seeing things, if you're always overriding something and you're like, let me go in here and adjust the rule so I don't have to keep overriding the same thing every single period. In addition to that, customize your preferred view here, save those URLs. Remember, if you choose sent back, you can bookmark this URL and really see what you need to see there. And finally, any questions, hit this little button down here in the bottom corner. You can send us a message, ask us whatever you need. If you have feature or functionality requests that you'd like to recommend, drop them there. If you have questions on how to do anything or you run into issues, hit us up. We will get back to you as soon as possible. With that, we look forward to seeing you in the app. And thank you so much for spending a few minutes to make sure you were using VERIFYiQ as productively as possible. Have a great one.